The Knicks are rolling once again. The Knicks were relentless tonight. From start to finish, the numbers tell the entire story. This game wasn't about squeaking by. It was a clear flex, built entirely on effort, volume, and unshakable control. They shot 44 for 96 from the field, which gave them a field goal percentage of 46%. But the real damage came from the deeper metrics. They hit 16 threes out of 45 attempts. That's 36% from deep. And it mattered way more than the number alone suggests, because it shaped every quarter. Effective field goal percentage, which weights threes properly, came out to 54%. That's a full 8 points higher than their raw field goal percentage, which shows how heavily the shooting leaned on high-value buckets. That wasn't empty volume, that was calculated damage. Then, layer in their 12 for 16 mark at the free throw line, 75% efficiency. And suddenly, you see a team that wasn't just letting it fly, but converting efficiently. Now take all that and put it into the true shooting percentage formula. 116 points divided by twice the sum of field goal attempts and adjusted free throw attempts. And you land right at 57%. That's a rock solid number for a team that launched 96 total shots. High volume, high efficiency, no wasted movement. But the rebounding, that's where the whole game tilted. 61 total rebounds, 25 of them offensive. Let that sink in. 25 offensive rebounds. That's not just a hustle stat. That's 25 extra possession. That is 25 fresh shot clock. That is 25 times the Raptors had to dig in and survive another sequence. The offensive rebounding rate was 41%. That's beyond elite. That's, we're going to beat you up and take your lunch money level domination. Changed everything. Assists, 27 of them. That's sharing the ball at a high rate with structured movement and timing. And the turnovers, 18, not ideal, but with the sheer amount of possessions they played through, it didn't derail anything. The assist-to-turnover ratio settled at 1.5 to 1, which holds up when you're moving the ball this well and attacking this much. They racked up 9 steals and 3 blocks. That's 12 combined defensive disruption events, and it directly fueled transition offense and set the tone early. New York's activity on that end was constant. It wasn't just about making the Raptors miss. It was about punishing them for even trying to set up their offense. The impact metrics back it all up. 5 players finished with a plus-minus of at least plus 17. 5. That's lineup dominance across the board. That means the Knicks weren't just surviving minutes. They were turning every combination into a net positive. Josh Hart, 20 points on just 12 shots. 1.67 points per shot. That's high efficiency scoring. He hit 4 threes on 7 attempts, clocking in at 57% from deep. Effective field goal percentage for him, 83%. That's astronomical. He also pulled down 12 rebounds, 5 of them offensive, threw out 7 assists, and snagged 3 steals. And then there's the plus-minus, plus 24. That's not subtle. That's I owned the game energy. Karl Anthony Towns dropped 22 points on 15 shots, which is 1.47 points per attempt. He went 5 for 7 at the line and pulled in 8 rebounds with 3 on the offensive end, plus 3 on the floor, and most of that came from drawing attention, forcing mismatch, and keeping the Raptors' interior in a blender. Bridges was hyper-efficient, 14 points on 10 shots, 1.4 points per attempt, and a 70% effective field goal percentage. He added 3 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. All-around impact. His plus-minus, plus 17. He was everywhere. Jalen Brunson had the least efficient shooting night, with 18 points on 19 shots. That's just under 1 point per shot, but he made up for it by hitting all 5 of his free throws and throwing 7 assists with only 2 turnovers. His on-court impact was still massive, plus 25, tied for team best. Even when the shot wasn't falling, he drove pace, controlled tempo, and helped maintain structure. Miles McBride was right in the mix too. 14 points on 11 shots, including 4 made, 3s on 8 attempts. That's 50% from deep and a 64% effective field goal percentage overall. 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and a plus 18 impact. That's a huge bench contribution in a game where momentum never really slipped. Then the bench unit carried the load when the starters rested. Gershon Yabusele dropped in 7 points on 5 shots. That's 1.4 points per attempt, plus 4 rebounds in just 10 minutes. He posted a plus 6. Tassan Evbumwan and Mohamed Diawara barely played, but each logged a rebound in just a couple of minutes, both with a plus 2 impact. No mistakes, no drop. Mitchell Robinson grabbed 15 rebounds in 17 minutes. That's nearly 1 board per minute. 7 of those were offensive. He only scored once, but the physicality he brought reshaped entire possessions. His plus-minus, plus 17. That's impact without needing a shot dot. Aerial hoop he got in 4 minutes and still managed 2 rebounds and an assist. +2 impact. Same as Ev Boomwin and Diawara. Minimal time, maximum control. Jordan Clarkson had 13 points on 13 shots. Exactly 1 point per shot. Not bad, not great. 3 of those buckets came from deep, and he added some pace early in the fourth, but he finished with a -3. He had some impact, but didn't quite match the rhythm of the starters. Tyler Kolek posted 6 points on 6 shots and added 3 assists in 14 minutes. Also finished with a -3, but like Clarkson, didn't make critical mistakes. Just wasn't pushing the needle. Overall, the Knicks won this game through physical control, shot efficiency in key moments, and rotation depth. The 25 offensive rebounds shaped the entire night. They kept extending plays, draining the clock, wearing Toronto down with multiple shot attempts per possession. That constant pressure made sure the Raptors never had a chance to swing momentum. Despite shooting only 46% from the field, the Knicks got more out of their possessions. Their three-point makes, offensive rebounding, and ball movement pushed their effective shooting to 54% and their true shooting to 57%. That gap is what broke the game open. And look at the defensive work. 12 combined steals and block. That led to transition points and forced Toronto to play slower than they wanted. The Knicks were jumping passing lanes, walling up drives, and rotating with urgency. No possessions off, no free looks. Their assist total, 27, shows they weren't playing hero ball. The offense was moving. Cutters were rewarded. Kickouts were automatic. There was no ego in the possessions, just execution. Then you layer in the depth scoring. This wasn't 1 or 2 players carrying the load. The starters had 88 points, 36 rebounds, 21 assists, and 9 steals combined. That's what you want from a fully functional unit. The bench chipped in, controlled the tempo when they were in, and held the lead steady. And in terms of lineup consistency, 5 players finished with a plus-minus of +17 or more. That doesn't happen by accident. That's a team syncing across all rotations. Starters push the lead, bench holds it. Everyone contributes. The Knicks played with a structure that didn't fade under pressure. Even when Toronto made that second quarter push, the Knicks didn't lose rhythm. There wasn't a quarter where the Raptors dictated pace for more than a few minutes. Every time they made a mini run, the Knicks responded. Hart and Bridges crushed Toronto's rhythm in the third with timely threes, cuts, and stops. Then Mitchell Robinson and Jordan Clarkson helped kill any chance of a fourth quarter run. The final stat lines prove how tight the execution was: rebounding advantage, scoring balance, assist dominant. The analytics say it all. This wasn't a lucky shooting night or a hot streak from one guy. This was a team out-executing their opponent in every statistical category that actually impacts winning. Toronto never matched New York's effort, intensity, or volume. The Knicks' ability to control the boards, convert possessions, and cycle through productive rotations was overwhelming. It wasn't flashy, but it was complete. Tonight was proof that the Knicks can win through methodical, layered basketball. They didn't rely on a superstar explosion. They didn't need everything to go perfectly. They just needed to control the controllables, and they did. Every number on the box confirms it. Every lineup delivered. Every effort counted. But I want to talk about Deuce. 14 points tonight. 19 2 games before that. Over the last 6 games, Deuce McBride's putting up 16.2 points a night, pulling down 2.7 rebounds, and dishing 1.8 assists. That's all while starting ever since OG got hurt. And somehow, after all that, the reaction's been suspiciously quiet, like nobody wants to admit the numbers are screaming. Let's start with the basics. He's averaging 11.2 points this season, and that's more than 66% of players. That's not average. That's not just filling in. That's producing at a higher level than 2/3 of the league. But here's where it starts to really bend the scale. His shooting numbers: Deuce is sitting at 56.9% effective field goal percentage. That's a number you don't ignore. That's better than 57% of players. And that stat weights his threes correctly. So yeah, he's not just chucking it, he's converting. Per field goal attempt, he's getting 1.1 points. When you factor in his true shooting percentage, it climbs to 58.3%. That means every time he's involved in a scoring attempt, whether it's a shot or a trip to the line, he's netting 1.2 points. That's way above what people think of when they think bench guard, filling in for an injured starter. That's more efficient than 70% of the league, and he's doing it without hunting for numbers. He's only taking 9.1 shots a game, hitting on 2.5 of those from deep, and getting 1.4 buckets inside the arc. His free throw attempts, 1.1 per game. Not a volume scorer, but an efficient one. Every action he takes leads to value. Let's look at the overall impact. His offensive rating, 123.7. That's insane for a player in his role. His defensive rating is 115.1. So yeah, he's not clamping down on everyone like a full-on defense juggernaut, but he's holding his own. And his net rating? Plus 8.5. That's a major plus. And it means that when he's on the floor, his team's playing better. That's not vibes. That's math. And speaking of when he's on the floor, 73.3% of the time, the team finishes with a positive plus minus. That's not a fluke. That's consistency. Even when his team scores less when he's off the floor, the on-off difference is still only minus 1.2. That's better than 73% of the league. So no, he's not just treading water, he's raising the level. Now let's hit the ball handling. He's ranked in the 73rd percentile for ball handling. And when you watch the games, it makes sense. He's careful, he's deliberate, and he doesn't waste possession. 2.4 assists a game doesn't sound flashy, but he only turns it over 0.7 times per game. That's a ratio that's better than 52% of players, which means he's protecting the ball and still creating shots. His assist rate is 12.41%. That's the percentage of teammate field goals he's assisting on while on the court. Not elite, but he's still generating 6.1 points per game from assists alone. Meanwhile, his turnover rate, 7.1%. Only 37% of players are doing better than that. He's not playing wild or overextending. He's making the most out of what he's given. And defense, it's not his calling card, but the numbers aren't embarrassing. He's getting 0.7 steals, 0.2 blocks, and 1.7 defensive rebounds per game. Team defensive efficiency with him out there is 115.1. That's better than 42% of players. Nothing flashy, but he's not getting cooked either. His usage rate is 16.5%. That means he's involved in a little under 1/5 of the offensive possessions, whether he's shooting, passing for a score, or turning it over. For comparison, the league is filled with guys sitting in that same zone who are nowhere near this efficient. He's taking 9.1 shots, 1.1 free throws, 2.4 assists, and only turning it over 0.7 times per game. That's 53.3 possessions he's playing in, and he's squeezing production out of every one of them. This isn't about one night, it's not about being hot for a week. This is what he's doing consistently across multiple games. 16.2 points over the last 6 games isn't just momentum. It's a stretch of real contribution. There's a difference between luck and a trend, and this is clearly trending upward. The frustrating part is that every time Deuce McBride has a good game, it feels like it disappears, like the stats vanish in plain sight. Nobody wants to give him credit for simply being better than most. The silence around his efficiency is loud. You've got a player shooting close to 60% true shooting, playing plus basketball, not turning it over, and hitting threes at a reliable clip, and yet somehow, the respect's still waiting on the tarmac. And it's not like the team is carrying him, he's contributing directly. 11.2 points per game, 2.4 assists, barely any turnovers, and efficiency across the board. There's not much flash to it, but that's the point. The numbers are clean, no fluff, no chasing highlight reels. He just gets in, handles his role, and raises the level. Meanwhile, the defensive metrics show he's holding steady. Not elite, but enough to not drag the team down. His presence is net positive. He's not taking anything off the table, and he's adding on both ends. The on-off numbers back it. The net rating backs it. The offensive and defensive efficiency numbers back it. Everything in the advanced stats world is practically shouting that he's making a difference. And look, it's not like the usage is sky high. He's not dominating possessions. He's making selective plays that result in real output. He's in the game, using about 1/6 of the team's possessions, and yet still sitting with a net rating of plus 8.5. That's not normal for someone in that usage band. So when the reactions roll in after a game where he drops 14, it's wild how many people brush it off. Like it didn't happen, like the numbers were a favor. It's not a favor when it keeps happening. And it keeps happening. Efficient scoring, smart decisions, rock solid ball handling, and a consistent presence in the rotation. Nothing about these stats is accidental. And yeah, he's playing more because of injury, but he's producing more too. This is a real stretch of play, backed by real data, not one night, not 1 week, a full 6-game sample, on top of season-long efficiency that's outranking more than half the league in nearly every category that matters. So every time Deuce McBride puts up another efficient double-digit game and the reactions still act like it's some sort of bonus, the stats tell the real story. They show a player doing more than his role, more than his minutes, and definitely more than he's being given credit for. And that's what makes it so lopsided, because the numbers aren't hiding anything. They're right there, all season long, and they don't lie. But let's talk about Josh Hart. 14.7 points, 9 rebounds, and 6.2 assists over the last 9 games. Then turn around And in the most recent 5 games, he's somehow increased it to 16 points, 10.4 rebounds, and 6 assists per game. That's not just a hot streak. That's Josh Hart putting up numbers like he's the engine, the fuel, and the steering wheel. And the fact he's doing this without fanfare, almost criminal. Let's start with the scoring. On the season, Josh Hart's averaging 10.9 points per game, which already puts him above 65% of players in the league. That's not bench warmer numbers, that's solid starter production. But his recent surge makes that look mild. These last 5 and 9 game stretches are telling a much louder story, and the points are only part of. Efficiency, 55.6% effective field goal percentage. That's better than 64% of the league. And again, this isn't about volume. This is about quality. He's scoring 1.1 points per field goal attempt, and his true shooting percentage is 59.6%. That's more efficient than 63% of players. You know what that means? He's not just scoring, he's scoring smarter. Every shot has weight, every bucket is earned. He's taking 8.4 shots per game, making 2.8 inside the arc and another 1.2 from deep. He's also getting to the line twice per game. It's not some wild, erratic shot diet. It's composed, consistent, and surprisingly productive. 1.2 points per scoring attempt tells the story better than any highlight clip could. Now let's jump to his overall impact. Offensive rating, 121.3. Defensive rating, 117.6. That gives him a net rating of plus 3.6. That's a positive swing and a consistent one. He's not just getting his own numbers, he's raising the floor when he's out there. And that's not speculation. Those numbers are above average, and the on-off stats make it even clearer. 64.7% of the time, his team ends the game with a positive plus-minus while he's on the floor. That's 2/3 of games swinging the right direction when he's active. And then there's the on-off differential, minus 2.1. That's not just good, that's better than 90% of the league. The team drops off when he's off the floor, and there's no way around that. His ball handling ranking, 90th percentile. That puts him near the top of the league in control and decision making. And the passing? Man, the passing. He's averaging 4.9 assists per game, which is more than 84% of players. That's not a nice little stat for a forward. That's a top tier playmaking number for any position. His assist rate, 23.8%. That means nearly 1 out of every 4 field goals scored by a teammate while he's out there came off his pass. And it's not fluff assists either. He's creating 12.8 points per game just from passing. That's production that goes far beyond the box score. That's a guy who makes teammates better. And sure, he turns it over, 2 turnovers per game. But when you compare that to how many actions he's taking, 9.2 scoring attempts plus the passing load, it becomes clear he's still efficient. His turnover percentage is 17.89%. Not elite, but it still leaves room to say he's doing more good than bad with the ball in his hands. Let's not ignore his rebounding either, because it's one of the most absurd parts of the stat sheet. 7.6 rebounds per game. For a wing, that puts him ahead of 69% of the league, and it's not because he's camping under the basket. He's grabbing 1.7 offensive boards per game, which ranks better than 90% of players. That's hustle and timing and awareness. That's creating extra possessions. Defensive rebounding, 5.9 a game. That's 21.32% of available defensive boards when he's on the floor. That number may look weird on its own, but it puts him ahead of 43% of the league, which is more than respectable for his role and size. And his defense, statistically underrated. He's averaging 1.2 steals and 0.3 blocks. His presence on that end leads to a team defensive efficiency of 117.6. The mixed team defense metric ranks him higher than 74% of players, and that's including guards, wings, and bigs. That means his overall impact on defense holds up, and it's not just eye test theater. It's backed up by numbers. His usage rate is 16.6%. That might sound low, but considering he's touching the ball every possession, passing, rebounding, and defending, it actually proves the point. He's not a volume shooter. He's a do-everything connector. He's taking 8.4 shots, getting to the line 2 times, making nearly 5 assists, and turning it over twice. That's 57.5 possessions per game, and he's involved in so many actions that the usage stat barely captures what's really going on. And then you zoom out and look at the big picture. Over the last 9 games, he's almost averaging a triple-double if you squint hard enough. 14.7 points, 9 rebounds, and 6.2 assists. Over the last 5, 16 points, 10.4 rebounds, and 6 assists. Those numbers are not filler, they're foundational. They're what happens when a player starts doing everything and doing it efficiently. He's giving the team second chances on the glass, creating for teammates, keeping the ball moving, and scoring just enough to make it matter. He's not chasing stats, he's just delivering results. And when you stack all this up, you get a player who's producing more than 65% of the league in points, more than 64% in shooting efficiency, and more than 84% in assists. His rebounding's better than 2/3 of the league overall, and better than 90% when it comes to offensive boards. His defense puts him in the upper quarter, his on-off splits are elite, his passing is reliable, his scoring is timely, his presence is stabilizing. But somehow, the conversation always skips over him. Like what he's doing isn't flashy enough to register, like you need a 25-point explosion to be noticed. Instead of watching someone control pace, create extra chances, and keep the whole system running. Josh Hart's not filling in holes. He's building support beams. So if the numbers are boring, that's only because people aren't paying attention. The stats are saying the same thing over and over. Hart's efficient. Hart's effective. Hart's producing like someone who's way more than a role player. And it's not some isolated burst either. His performance over the last 5 and 9 games shows a consistent upward curve. He's trending higher in every category that matters. Scoring, rebounding, assists, while keeping his turnovers manageable and his shooting percentage is high. That's growth, not luck. What makes it even more impressive is the context. He's not being fed extra usage or being allowed to operate with the greenest of green lights. He's finding his way into the game every single night and squeezing out the most production possible with the touches he gets. That's value. Real, undeniable value. So whether it's the 14 and 9 stretch or the 16 and 10 one, the picture's the same. Josh Hart is showing up over and over, and his numbers are stacking higher and higher. He's not being carried. He's helping carry. And if the eyes still glaze over when the box score reads 10.9 points, that's on the people not digging deeper. The impact goes well beyond the raw average. The efficiency, the rebound, the passing, the defense. It all points to one thing. Josh Hart is playing better than most of the league, and it's right there in the numbers. So when the narrative skips over him again next time, the stats will still be sitting there, yelling into the void. Hart's doing the work. The rest just needs to catch up. But let's talk about Cat. Karl Anthony Towns is putting up 21.7 points per game, and that's already more than 92% of players in the entire league. So when people talk about the Knicks making a real push for the title, the conversation better start with one thing. Towns has to dominate, not chip in, not blend in, dominate, because that scoring output isn't some bonus. It's a necessary foundation, but it's not just about raw points, it's how those points are coming. Towns is taking 15.5 shots a game, hitting 5.1 from 2 and 1.8 from 3. That gives him a true shooting percentage of 58%. He's pulling 1.2 points per scoring attempt. So yeah, the efficiency is real, and it's sitting higher than 95% of the league. That means Towns isn't wasting possessions. He's turning shots into value. The effective field goal percentage, 50.2%. That's slightly above league average, but paired with the volume and his ability to draw contact and get to the line nearly 7 times a game, it tells the full story. This guy is a constant pressure point. He's forcing defenses to react, shift, and rotate. And when he's not aggressive, that pressure disappears. And so does the margin for error. Let's talk usage. Towns is involved in 26.7% of the team's offensive possessions. That's high. That's go-to-guy territory. That's not a secondary role. That means he's finishing more than 1 out of every 4 trips down the court. Whether it's a shot, a trip to the line, a pass that leads to a score, or a turnover. And that kind of role doesn't allow for hesitations. It demands production. It demands control. He's playing nearly 70 possessions per game and taking meaningful action on more than 1/3 of them. You cannot have someone operating at that level of involvement floating through stretches of games. That's how teams stall out. That's how offense dries up in the second half. If the Knicks are going to make a true title push, he's got to be the one anchoring the system. Not just showing up when it's comfortable, but showing up every quarter like the offense needs him. Because it does. His offensive rating, 121.7. That's elite. That puts him among the most productive high-usage players in the league. He's not just chucking. He's scoring efficiently with volume. But what really jumps out is the net rating, plus 7.6. That means the team plays significantly better with him on the floor. That's not a coincidence. That's direct impact. And when that impact is tied to scoring, it becomes non-negotiable. If he's not scoring, they're not peaking. 72.2% of his games result in a positive plus-minus when he's on the court. That means in nearly 3 out of every 4 games, his presence is tied to winning stretches. The on-off differential, plus 5.8. That's more than 73% of the league. The Knicks are simply better when he's out there. That's not a maybe. That's a fact. Now let's look at what else he's doing. He's assisting at a solid rate for a big 3.4 assists per game. That's more than 60% of players. His assist rate is 14.35%, meaning he's creating offense for teammates at a real clip. That's not window dressing, that's creation. But it also comes with 2.6 turnovers per game and a turnover percentage of 12.27. Not egregious, but it does show one thing. When he gets loose with the ball or hesitates in decision making, it bites the team. And in the playoffs, those bites get magnified. He's assisting 8.2 points per game through passing. That's legitimate production, but it also reinforces why he can't afford to take plays off. His passing is part of the offense's rhythm, and if he's not engaged, the ball sticks. Or worse, the possession collapses. His role as a scorer and a connector isn't optional, it's essential. That balance of shot making and distribution is what makes him so dangerous. But if he's not in attack mode, it all breaks down. Grabbing 9 defensive rebounds per game. That's more than 89% of players in defensive rebounding. That alone helps end possessions. Defensive rebound percentage, 27.46. That's elite for any position, and for someone taking on offensive responsibility, it shows real two-way impact. Overall, he's averaging 12.2 rebounds per game. 3.2 of those come on the offensive glass, and that ranks better than 98% of the league. That's massive. It's not just about scoring. Towns is creating second chances. He's extending possessions. Offensive rebound percentage is sitting at 9.08. That's not an accident. That's dominance on the glass. If he's aggressive on the boards, it sets a tone. If he's not, it opens the door for breakdowns and effort. The Knicks need physicality to win playoff games, and Towns has the tools to bring that, but only if he leans into it. Only if he uses that strength consistently, instead of drifting to the perimeter and settling. And yeah, the mixed team defense metric ranks him above 90% of players. That's not narrative fluff, that's the number saying he holds up. Opponents aren't walking into the paint and scoring freely when he's there. His defensive rating is 114.1. That's better than most players in the league and proves he's not a liability. But to push for a championship, that number has to be stable game to game. It can't waver because everything tightens in the playoffs. Possessions slow down, mismatches are hunted, Towns is going to get targeted. That's what happens to stars. So the best version of himself has to show up. Not sometimes, all the time. If he defends with urgency and plays with consistent physicality, the Knicks can anchor around him. If not, teams will pick that apart. He's got the tools. He's already doing more than most players across the board. But that only matters if he leans into it during the biggest moments. The usage rate demands leadership. The stats demand responsibility. And his presence demands that the Knicks use him as the engine, not the passenger. If you take a step back, you see it all lining up. He scores more than 92% of the league. His scoring efficiency ranks better than 95%. His rebounding ranks near the top. His defense is holding strong. And the team is far better when he's on the court. So there's no mystery. There's just the expectation. If the Knicks are going to chase a banner, Towns has to be at the center of it. The volume, the efficiency, the passing, the rebounding, the defense. It all points to one role, not support, not secondary, centerpiece. Anything less, and they're just treading water. Because that ceiling they're chasing, it's tied directly to what Karl Anthony Towns does every single night. He's averaging 21.7 points, playing nearly 70 possessions, touching the ball constantly, and drawing defensive attention every time down the floor. That's the player who has to drive the run. That's the one who sets the tone. If he's active, efficient, and engaged, the Knicks are dangerous. If he fades, their margin for error evaporates. So yeah, it's not just a hope, it's a requirement. If the Knicks want more than a good season, Towns has to dominate because the stats say he already can. The only question is whether he will when it matters most. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.